Stewart, and the many others, requesting prayer for my wife, Maisha, and also for my niece. When you say your prayers, remember my niece, Nisi Jordan, and that his healing hand and healing power will be upon her. We know that he is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we may ask or think, and it's according to the power that does work within us. The faith that we have in him, the faith that we have in our Messiah to be, we're looking for him to reestablish his kingdom here on earth, and we'll be a part of that. We're also looking for him to be the healer of all of our diseases, like when he walked the earth and how he healed those who were sick, those who came to him, and the many miracles that is recorded that he did. And he taught us to have faith. We got to have faith. And without faith, it is impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and that he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. So it's imperative on us to be full of faith, pure faith, not just faith, but pure faith. It doesn't have to be a lot. It could be just a grain of a mustard seed. But as long as it's pure faith, that does actuate his power, because he knows what's pure and what's not. We know that we can ask our Father in the name of his Son, and he will hear our prayers and he will answer them. So we do move in this light. We do move in this understanding. And so let's remember one another as we continue our daily prayer. It's important that we establish a prayer life. It's very important. Now, it says in the book of Romans, in the book of Galatians, it says that if you have the Spirit of his Son, it's the Spirit that cries out, Abba, Father. So if you have the Spirit of his Son, that Spirit in you, that Ruach in you, will cry out to Abba. It's just going to cry out to Abba, because that's what Yahusha did when he was here, when he walked. He prayed unto his Abba. He cried unto his Abba. He sought his Abba's face, and we see the life that he lived, and he was always in subject to his Father. And so, if we have that Spirit of his Son, and a lot of us say we got the Ruach HaKodesh, we got the Holy Ghost. Then if we have the Ruach, then our Ruach will be crying out, Abba, Father. And so on today, as we continue on, I just want to say a few things. We are in some very dark times. It's a dark world out there. It's dark times. Paul had said, Shaul said, evil men and seducers are going to wax worse and worse. They're going to be deceived, and they'll be doing some deceiving. And the day is getting darker. We're living in a time of, like it says in Revelation, the time of Babylon, and how every evil and wicked, every filthy and foul spirit, every all kind of wickedness and corruption is just, it consumes the heart of man. The heart of man, the mind of man is just consumed with wickedness and corruption. And it's not just on our level where we're at, but it extends up to the higher levels, the levels of government. Shaul said that there's spiritual wickedness in high places, very high places around the world, a lot of governments. And we're starting to see nations rise up against nations. We're starting to see the forming of a war that is going to be costly to a lot of nations. There is a nation right now that can assassinate a president, a prime minister, and all of his cabinet, just pure assassination with impunity, and nobody says nothing. Only one nation on the 6 continents can do something like that. There's no other nation on any other continents that can just outright assassinate. Can you imagine if somebody, a foreign country, assassinated President Trump? Can you imagine what that would bring? What would be the next steps? And then not only assassinate President Trump, but assassinate J.D. Vance, kill him, kill Marco Rubio, kill. I mean, all his staff, his uh, secretaries. Can you imagine that? What would happen? What would you think would happen? It would be a war. I mean, just like today, there would be no half stepping. I mean, we have military bases around the world. We wouldn't even do that. But there is a tiny nation of Ashkenazis that have assassinated a president and his cabinet with impunity. Nobody says nothing. It's like it's just another day, uh, just another day on the horizon. Go on about your business. Nothing happened here. It's just unheard of. We're in a very very dark time now, where we're seeing these wars that are about to take place. We're ready for war off the coast of Venezuela, the country of Venezuela. We're ready for war. And there was a small boat that they said carried, as Marco Rubio was saying, drugs to, and he didn't know where they were taking the drugs. He didn't say they was bringing them to the United States. He said they could have been in Caribbean, could have been somewhere, but we blew them up in the water off of the coast of Venezuela, which is against our Constitution. There's nothing. I mean, we are not allowed to do that, but we did it anyway because there's no regard for our Constitution. There's no regard for wartime, or they call it peacetime, but there's no regard for that. We are on the verge of seeing some catastrophes that we haven't seen in our lifetime. Many of us who are here in the house, those who are tuning in online, there's some things that we are going to witness that we have not witnessed in our lifetime. And Yahusha said it will be a time that the world has never seen before. And we seen. We weren't alive. I wasn't. I don't know if anybody here was. The last World War, which United States lost. I mean, it was six figures. It was over 100,000. I don't know, 300,000, 200,000 soldiers. Just the United States lost. Russia lost millions of soldiers. We that whole World War II, the loss of soldiers and civilians was in the millions. And a lot of people thought that was the end of the world. That was going to be it. And, ushered in the new world, the new millennium, and a millennium of peace and all this and that. That wasn't it. We're about to see something happen again that will make World War II pale in comparison. And so I know a lot of people have been taught that they're not going to be here to even witness what's coming on the earth. That has been a very popular teaching throughout my lifetime. I'll just speak for myself. Throughout my lifetime, very popular teaching that we don't have to worry about it. We're not going to witness any of that. But that's not what Yahusha says. If you believe in Yahusha, who the world calls Jesus Christ, but if you believe in him, that's not what he said. That's not what he said. And so even in the time, and there's just some scriptures I'm going to read on today. And in the first one, I want to start in Acts chapter 14, verse. I'm going to read 21 and 22. maybe 23. And when they had preached the gospel to that city and had taught many, they returned to Lystra and Iconium and Antioch, confirming the souls of the disciples, exhorting them to continue in the faith. We must continue in the faith. What is that faith? The faith of Yahusha. We have to continue in the faith of Yahusha. And so what was the faith of Yahusha? And you go and you look at his life, the life that he lived. You understand who he is. You understand his purpose of life. The pure faith that he had. How could he do all those things that he did? Pure faith. Well, no, he was God. No, he never said he was God. He said, I'm the son of Elohim or Eloah. I'm the son of Yahuwah. So that's what he always said. I am the son of Yahuwah. And so we have to have that same faith that Yahusha had. And so when Paul's talking about this here, he's telling them to continue in the faith that they have in Yahusha, believing what he said is going to come to pass. Having faith in Yahusha, faith in somebody who was a Torah teacher. He taught Torah. Nowhere in Yahusha's teaching did he encourage anybody to break Yahuwah's commandments. He didn't encourage nobody to break his commandments. He led a type of life that showed you can live this type of life and keep his commandments. You can do it. It's not impossible. That's impossible to keep. Well, he did it. He lived it right before us, or when I say before us, in his day. I mean, he lived it in his day. And so for anybody to say, well, that it's incapable. I'm not capable of doing it. Well, then you don't have the faith of Yahusha. You don't have that faith, because if you had his faith, and even Shaul said, I can do all things through the Mashiach, who strengthens me. So when somebody says, well, I can't keep and all you got to do, if anybody would study the instructions, the Torah, the law of the Most High, if anybody would just study it, he taught you how to take care of yourself, your own body. He taught you how to be neighbor and loving brother and sister to one another, and he taught you how to worship him. That's what he taught. And when I talk about your body and your relationships with others, the Most High Yah is against sexual immorality. He's against it. And when you study the moral teachings of the Most High Yahuwah and his teaching, he taught a lot and condemned a lot of people because of their sexual behaviors. And so when somebody says, well, I can't keep, we can't, it's impossible to keep it. It is. It's impossible for you to keep yourself under subjection. It's impossible to have a relationship with your spouse within the guidelines that he says. That's impossible. It's impossible to have a clean mind and a clean heart. Are you telling me that's impossible? No, it's not impossible. So when people say that, when they say that, they just repeat things from Constantine because they've never really studied. They never really studied, because when you study the Torah and the commandments and law, he teaches you how to live amongst yourself, how we should live amongst ourselves, how we're to be brotherly, how the sisters are supposed to live amongst themselves, how the men are supposed to live amongst themselves. The army was supposed to be of men and not women. And that's how he taught us. And so it's not impossible to live. It's very possible to live. And for many of us, we've been living that type of life And so when there's new things brought on, new revelations, new understanding, new revealing. Okay, well I can adjust because I can do all things through the Mashiach. No big problem, no big problem. I can adjust to it. But somebody who just condemns his Torah, if you condemn the Torah, the instructions, the laws of the Most High Yah, you won't be in the kingdom. I'm just going to say that right now. You will not be in the kingdom because what's going to be ruling in the kingdom is his law. Now, how do we know his law is going to be ruling in the kingdom? How do we know that? Well, he's going to make a new covenant, right? And that new covenant is he's going to do what? He's going to write the law on your heart and on your mind. So that's going to be ruling. That's going to rule in the kingdom. The laws of Yahuwah is what's going to rule in the kingdom. So if anybody is against the law of Yahuwah, they won't make the kingdom. They're not going to be there. And a lot of us, it's difficult for us to digest that. But when you read Isaiah, especially the 10th chapter, he says only a remnant is going to return. It's not that the whole nation of Yasharel is going to return back to him. He says only a remnant. There's just going to be a remnant that's going to return back to him. But he says here, exhorting them to continue in the faith, and I'm reading from Acts 14:22. Exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of Yahuwah. He was warning them that through much tribulation, they were going to enter into the kingdom of Yahuwah. Now, somebody might say, well, that was way back. That was all. Shaul, when he was writing and starting the assemblies and going out to the Gentiles and everything, he thought the return of Yahusha was going to be in his day. The way he wrote, he thought it was going to be in his day. They were expecting the return of Yahusha. Even when he ascended up, what did they say? In the first chapter of Acts, verse number 6, what did they say? Are you going to restore the kingdom at this time? He said, it's not for you to know the day or the hour, but you're to be witnesses unto me. So many of them in the first century was under the impression and the understanding that the kingdom was going to be set up in their day. It was going to happen in their day. Even Shaul thought that. It wasn't until the end of his life, he was in house arrest for the last 2 years, waiting to see Caesar, that he realized it's not going to be in my day. It's not going, and he said that in Thessalonians. I thought it was a bit, but it's not going to be in my day. You guys are going to have to wait. I would say, it's not far-fetched, but Kepha, Yahukanah, all of them, Shaul, I don't think none of them thought it would be this long. I don't think none of them thought, 2,000 years? What? I don't think none of them, because they thought it was going to happen in their day. So we see what's going on now. But what Shaul was telling them was, you guys have to continue in the faith because through the tribulation, that's when we're going to go into the kingdom. Through much tribulation, then we're going to go into the kingdom. Now, this also sheds a light on all of us and the type of life that we live. Many of us are going to be confronted with some very dark, troubling, unwanted, undesired events, some things beyond our control. We're going to be confronted with evil. Our life might even be at stake. It's life or death. And whenever we're confronted with death, just notice how the whole atmosphere changes. The whole atmosphere. And I don't know if you've seen, if you were in the room with somebody and then they were living and then they're not. and just the whole atmosphere and how it just changes. And so that type of day is going to be upon us. And it's going to be upon us sooner than you think. It because of what's going on around the world. And here's the thing. Our government does not let us know everything that they're doing and these other nations. And you might hear it after the fact, and then you might not hear it at all. You might not hear it at all. You'd be surprised when I said there's a nation that assassinated a president, a prime minister, and all his cabinet. You'd be surprised how many people, what? Who? When was that? Because they will only tell you what they want you to know. And so there's a lot of propaganda out there, and there's, what else is out there we have to be careful of? What else is out there? False prophets? Yeah. But fake news, or what else is out there that we have to be careful of? Hasatan? Deception. There's something out there that's getting ready to take over, though. It's already in flight. It's going to spread its wings. Huh? It is spiritual. It is spiritual, but it is spiritual, but it doesn't appear to be spiritual now, even though it is spiritual. It's something they created, AI, something that they created, but it is already, they've already said, some of the people who started this AI, they said it's already taken on a characteristic of its own. They said that. It's taken on a characteristics of its own. What? You created this, and now it's starting to think for itself? Oh, we're in trouble, y'all. It is taken on a spiritual nature, and we have to be very careful. But why are you saying that? Because we're going to have to go through. And the only way many of us are going to make it is because of their faith. And that's why Shaul said in here, continue in the faith. Because if you don't have faith, you probably won't make it in these troubling times that we're coming in. And you're going to need that ruach to guide you. And the ruach has to be so strong in you, you will be able to detect other spiritual beings or AI or something that is true or not. With your ruach. I was listening to the morning financial news show that I watch, and this has been several months ago. What is this? This was before June when we took our vacation. It was before that, but they did a part of their show where you could hear their voices, but you didn't see their faces, but you could hear their voices. And the voices that was coming through the airways and stuff sounded exactly like them. And then they came back and they told us that was AI. That wasn't us speaking, that was AI. So it sounded just like them, but it wasn't them. That's where we're at now. That's where we're at, where AI can get into, hologram and voices and stuff like that. If you don't have the faith of Yahusha, if you don't have your ruach burning down on the inside to where you could, there was something in my ruach that was telling me that ain't right. That's just not right. That's somebody that's walking close with the ruach. Because there's going to be a lot of people that's going to fall to that deception. So I heard somebody say deception. There's going to be a lot of people that's going to fall to that deception. You can't believe everything you see or hear. And doesn't our book tell us to do what? It says it in First Yahuchanan. He says, the 4th or 5th chapter, he says we ought to try the spirits to see if they are of the Most High Yah. Hey, I don't know about y'all, but I got to be spiritually keen. I got to have my spiritual antennas up because there's a lot of things out there. And how do I get my spiritual antennas up like that? You got to you got to fast and pray, because he even says it in the next verse here, in verse number 23. And when they had ordained them elders in every assembly and had prayed and fasting, they commended them to Yahusha, on whom they believed. That's who they believed in. They believed in Yahusha, so they commended them to you. But they didn't do it until they fasted and prayed. So if you want to get your spiritual antennas up, it's going to come by fasting and praying. And if you don't pray and you don't have a prayer life, it's going to be extremely, if not impossible, to make it. Because you got to be in tune. You have to be in tune with the Ruach, with the Most High Yah. I mean, you have to be in tune with them. And you'll be able to try every spirit to see if they are the spirits of God. I'm not taking anything for granted, because I know that I'm gonna have to go through some tribulation. Through much tribulation, this is how I'm going to enter into the kingdom. Now, in Isaiah chapter 13, and I'm going to start at verse verse 9. Isaiah 13 and 9. Now, whenever you are reading anything outside of the Hebrew scriptures, whatever they're saying, you need to tie it back to the Hebrew scriptures. If you can't tie it back and tie it down in the Hebrew scriptures, then it requires further investigation. I really got to investigate this, and I have to find it in Torah. Maybe I don't understand all of Torah and what Torah is saying. Maybe there's some things there that I missed. But anybody that just reads the Greek manuscripts and the Greek text without going back to the Hebrew text to verify it are going to be off base. Their whole projection on life will be skewed. It's going to be skewed. And you know what I mean by skewed? You're going to miss the mark. If all you have is the Greek text and you don't tie it into the Hebrew text, then you're going to be skewed. All your judgment, everything you're going to do is going to be off base. And that's what a lot of people do. They don't read any of the prophets. All they read is Romans to Jude. They don't want to read Revelation. They'll just read Romans to Jude. Do you know at one time Revelation wasn't even, they had taken Revelation out of the Bible, and then they put it back. But a lot of people don't want to read a lot of the things that's prior to our Messiah, because if you didn't have the Torah or the Hebrew text, we wouldn't have our Messiah, because our Messiah is Torah. It tells us that the Torah, or the Word, was made flesh. So if you take away the Hebrew text and you take away the Hebrew Bible, then you take away Yahusha, because you can't have Yahusha without the Hebrew text. You can't have Yahusha without Torah. You can't have Yahusha without the laws, the commands. You can't have Yahusha without the history of Yasharel. All of that was made flesh, and it dwelt among us. And so he says here in Isaiah 13 and 9, behold, the day of Yahuwah cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger. Now this is the day of Yahuwah. And I know a lot of people are saying, man, I can't wait. I wanted to hurry up. Oh. Yeah. When people say that's because they don't understand. They just don't understand. Because the day of Yahuwah is a day of wrath. So when we say the day of Yahuwah, what we're saying is we're waiting for his judgment. Well, I can't wait till the day of Yahuwah. Well, the day of Yahuwah is dealing with judgment. And it's going to be on how he judges this earth and the nations of the earth. That's the day of Yahuwah. All right. So it's not going to be, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult. Behold, the day of Yahuwah cometh, cruel both with wrath and fierce anger, to lay the land desolate. And he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. Because the sinners are not going to inherit this earth. Yahusha said the meek was going to inherit the earth. The righteous are going to be in the kingdom, because if you're righteous and you're in the kingdom, that means you have immortality. So that's what's going to be in the kingdom. Sinners, those who transgress against Abba Yahuwah, not going to make it. Not going to make it in. Not into that everlasting kingdom. He says he's going to destroy sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened in his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine. And I will punish the world for evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And iniquity is lawlessness. It's when you go against Abba Yah's laws. What he has established and set up, you just go against it. I don't believe in it. I don't think you have to do it. Well, let's look up that word. Let's look up that word iniquity in the Hebrew context. And this is Isaiah 13 and verse number 11. Iniquity is H5771. And here's the root word. In the context in which it's used, we got to go down to A and then M. Guilt, the result of twisted actions. Iniquity, punishment, fault, mischief, sin. So iniquity is sin. And we know what sin is. Sin is a transgression of his law. So that iniquity, the result of twisted actions. All right. So you might have had a thought in your mind, and instead of squashing it and getting rid of it, you allow it to germinate and harvest, and then it produces the action. And James breaks it down. Jacob breaks it down. He says, we are drawn away of our own lust and entice. Lust, when it's finished, brings forth death. Right? Now, I think, what else did he add in there? There was something else in there. Yeah. Lust brings forth sin. Sin brings forth death. Because that's the final result of that action. Okay? You had the opportunity to squash it. You could have got rid of it, because our adversary is a roaring lion. He's going about seeking who he may. He'll throw. James even says he's going to throw fiery darts at you. You gotta contend with that. I gotta fight. I gotta contend with that. There's things that he throws at me. I gotta squash it. Gotta get rid of that. I can't let the seed take root and then brings forth the action. And then now the action, once you have that action, now penalty comes. Once you have that action, penalty is going to come. But he says, now you know who, and I will punish the world for their evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease, and will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. All of this is going to be in the day of Yahuwah, the day of Yah. You know who else said this? When we look at Isaiah 13 and 10, who else says that? Yes, Matthew. Let's go to Matthew 24 and verse 29. So he says here, immediately after the tribulation of those days, and then he quotes Isaiah, the prophet. That's why everything that you find in the Greek text, you have to verify it in the Hebrew text. Because Yahusha, when he taught and he spoke, there's a lot of things he said, you just pull it right, you might as well just pull it right out of the Torah. He was a Torah teacher. He taught Torah. He kept the 10 Commandments. He understood the Sabbath day was a holy day. He understood it. And they wanted to stone him, actually, because he healed somebody on the Sabbath. And so they looked at healing. Well, if you heal somebody on the Sabbath, that's work. And when you look at the Sabbath, you're not supposed to do no servile work. That was the way the Sabbath was set up. No servile work. It was a day of rest, a day that you were not supposed to. Back originally when it first set up, he told them 6 days you collect everything you need, and on the 7th day you don't collect. You rest on the 7th day. So you had somebody who violated that. He was in transgression because he violated that. You have the written law, then you have the oral law, and so the oral law was don't pick up no sticks. But if you understand what he gave them specific instructions on when to do it, and then on the 7th day you rest. He gave them specific instruction. So instead of resting, he went to go ahead and pick up sticks anyway. In perfect violation to the Most High. So they held him within camp, and Moses went to the Most High and says, he went out to pick up sticks on the 7th day. What should we do? We don't know what to do. Abba Yahuwah says, kill him. Cody clearly looked at me. That's what he said. That's what he did. And that's kind of raw. That you would think, Father, whoa, time out. That's kind of raw. Man, you ain't playing, are you? He was just trying to set precedent. The way I see it was, he was in direct violation of a commandment. When he told him 6 days you pick it up, the 7th day you don't, this man says, I don't care, I'm going to pick him up on the 7th day. Oh, okay, well then. But then we get into a lot of fence laws. And that's how they came up with the oral teaching of the law, of the oral teaching of the commandments, and especially on the Sabbath. They even in the book of Acts where it says it was a Sabbath day's journey, that came out of the oral law. That was not in the law that was written by Moses. That was the oral teaching down through the years. You could only take so many steps on the Sabbath day. He never said that. And then we get to the point where, some people would hardly even get out of bed. They just rested all day. They wouldn't shower, wouldn't clean themselves. Some people wouldn't go to the bathroom. They wouldn't do none of that because they felt that was work. And that's not what Yahuwah was intended for that day to be. That day was to be a day where you rested from your labors. You work 6 days. That 7th day you rest from your labors. And you're not supposed to do no servile work. And but we like to add a lot of stuff to it because we have a lot of questions. And some of us are very fearful. Well, I don't know. I don't want to make a bad move. I don't want to do what he did and get struck down, especially at the end time. I want to make sure I'm doing everything right. But the seventh day was a day of rest. You work 6 days, you rest the seventh day. And when Yahusha healed on the seventh day, they thought that was work because you have all this oral teaching around the written law of Moses. He gave the law to Moses, and that was the written law. The oral law came in later. The oral law came in, well, let me explain it to you. Well, let the word explain it. The word will explain it if you allow the word to explain it. But they wanted to start to put up all these fence laws that came down to where they was counting your steps, which has nothing to do with keeping the Sabbath. Counting your steps. Has nothing to do with keeping it. But that's how they try to do Yahusha. You broke the Sabbath because you healed somebody on the Sabbath. And you know what he said? He says, well, if you have a beast of burden, right, and it falls into the pit, are you going to leave it in the pit because it's the Sabbath, or are you going to get it out of the pit? They are, oh, we're going to get it out of the pit. So is that beast of burden more valuable than this man? I mean, he gave them that example because you have to understand what the Sabbath day is. And they wanted to add all of these fence laws around it to try to condemn our Messiah. And he wasn't going to have it. How you going to condemn the one who, I am the law. I am the law. And so he had to show them and give them some understanding. But verse number 29, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. After the tribulation. After the tribulation. After the tribulation shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in the Shamaim, after the tribulation. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of the Shamaim with power and great glory. Now listen to verse number 31. And he shall send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet. That trumpet is not going to sound till after the tribulation. That's when you're going to hear the sound of the trumpet. After we go through all of these perilous times, and we see what's coming on the earth, and we're trying now to prepare ourselves. All of the feasts are there to prepare you. It's a preparation. It's not the original. We're not doing exactly, but we're preparing for the original. We're preparing for it. Even the next feast that comes up is Teruah, or the sounding of the trumpets. Sounding of the trumpets is the next feast that comes up, and it's going to be on September 21st. Real quick plug, we're going to be out at Scott County Park at Drop Time Shelter. We're going to have guests from Indianapolis that's going to be joining us. I'll be out there about 11 o'clock a.m. We're going to have a feast. And we'll have the shofars, the blowing of the shofar. We'll have songs of praise, games, horseshoes, different events. And so come on out and be with us. All right. So the trumpet is going to sound. You're going to have the blaring of the trumpet, but it's going to happen in its time. It's going to happen in its time. And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. You're going to have this great gathering. But before this happens, we're going to have to go through all of this. And then when you look at the especially in Thessalonians where Paul talks about it, and 1 Thessalonians 4 and verse number 16, I think it is, he says that the trumpet is going to sound, the sounding of the trumpet first. So when is the sounding of the trumpet? This is what he's talking about. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, after you see the signs and the Shamaim, there is something out there now. They call it three-eye atlas, and they're just dumbfounded. Every time as it's moving, as fast as it's moving, they said it's getting bigger. Now they're saying the light around it, the radius of the light around it, is about half the size of the sun. And it's a great distance away yet, And they said it's about half the size of the sun. Well, if it keeps growing and getting bigger, it might cause the sun not to shine, or might cut off that sunlight from the sun. And if that happens, there's going to be, what do they call it, EMP? That's going to happen. You're going to have an electronic magnetic pulse. I think that's what they call it, EMP. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to knock out all our electrical power. Now, so we've been practicing on preparing ourselves for an event or something like that. We have made what should I say, like food preparations. We've made certain preparations in the event. Let me say this: if there's an EMP, how long do you think those stores are going to have food in it? Once everybody starts raiding the stores. Because right now, the supply and demand, or they call it, what are they, supply chain, that's what they call it. Every 3 days, those grocery stores like Sam's and Hy-Vee, Walmart, the grocery stores, they have like 3 day supplies of food. And so everything has to be replenished about every 3 days. Well, what if it stopped being replenished and you got 3 days of food in there? There's going to be a run on them stores. And, Uh-huh. Mm. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, you have some people who are prepping. They call them preppers. They're prepping, and I think we've done, just to a certain degree of prepping, because we just don't know when it's going to happen, and you have to, even if you are prepping, there's some things that can sit on the shelf for a year, 2 years, 3 years, but then there's other stuff you have to rotate it. Otherwise, it's not going to be any good. And we don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but we're trying. And I'm sure that's because they even said when that happens, you really don't want to be grilling outside, because the smell of the grill and the food is going to be drawing people. It's going to draw people to your house, And at first it won't be so bad, but desperation is going to kick in. Now, President Trump is already sending the National Guard out in all these cities. Washington, D.C. was the first one. He said he's going to Chicago next. He's going to Chicago next, and setting up troops there. And you're starting to see this deployment around the city. They know something is about to happen. They know. They know. And we're very close to martial law. And I know, the neighborhood that I live in, if anybody comes out there trying to steal or break into somebody's house, it might be the last house that you break into. Because in the neighborhood I'm at, it's the legal right. It's the legal right, But you're going to have intruders. You're going to have intruders that are going to try to rob and steal. They're going to go to the stores first. They're going to go to the stores first, but when they see that the store shelves are empty, they can't get in now. There's going to be. What are you saying? Why are you saying all this? We're going to have to go through tribulation. We're going to have to survive through the tribulation. It's not going to be, I ain't got to worry about that. I'm going to disappear. I'm going to be out of here. No, that's not how it's going to be. I'm sorry. That's not how it's going to be. You're going to have to endure. And even Yahusha said in this same chapter, he says, he that endureth to the end, the same shall be saved. It's that endurance all the way to the end. We're going to have to go all the way to the end with this. There's no easy out. You got people who lived evil and wicked all their life, don't believe in the Messiah and everything, and then they're going to disappear and escape judgment, go into the heavens. No, I don't think so. No, it's not going to happen like that. All of us are going to have to endure to the end. We're going to have to make it to when he comes, like he says here, he's going to gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of the Shamaim to the other. We're going to have to endure to this time. We're going to have to make it through to this time. When he said this in Matthew 24 and 29, he quoted in verse number 30, well, 30, not 30, but 29, he quoted Isaiah. When you see verse 31, he's quoting Deuteronomy, Moses. So Yahusha didn't come up with no new, this is something new or something. No, he didn't come up with nothing new. He's just repeating the prophets. Moses was a prophet. And Moses prophesied. Isaiah prophesied. It's not just those two. There was others who prophesied. And so what Yahusha is doing is he's just recalling and speaking what the prophets had already said about what's going to happen at the end. And it's important for us to have a basic understanding of this. But remember what he said when he told us to continue in the faith. We have to continue in the faith. We can't give up. We got to understand that some of this stuff I might have to fast, might have to pray. But I know one thing: if you're not praying and you don't have your spiritual antennas up, you have to have a relationship with Abba Yahuwah, with the Most High Yah. You have to. Prayer is not hard. It's not hard. It's just communicating, talking with Him. And you want your Ruach in you, you want it to be active and alive. Because there's a lot of things that's going on in this day, and that if your Ruach is not strong and your spiritual antennas up to where you can perceive, good and evil, and whether it's AI or not, or whether something happened, I want my Ruach to cry out. If it's AI or something, I want my Ruach to say, don't believe that, it's AI. Or for me, I'm going to go to the Torah and investigate. I'm going to read Torah and investigate, because everything that our Messiah did, he quoted Torah, because it says, even in Isaiah 53, it talks about his life and how he was going to live his life and how he was going to have to give his life. Isaiah 53 says that. So that's a prophecy of our Messiah. And then he goes back and prophesies about a lot of things that they wrote. And we have to understand there is a time coming in Isaiah chapter 26 Is it verse 19? Verse 19. Let's see. All of this chapter, but chapter 20, Isaiah 26. I guess I'll start at verse 19. Thy dead men shall live, together with my dead body shall they arise. Awake and sing, ye that dwell in dust, for thy dew is as the dew of herbs, and the earth shall cast out the dead. Now this is talking about the resurrection. This is how he's framing it and everything. He's dealing with the resurrection. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little time, until the indignation be overpassed. For behold, Yahuwah cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. Remember we read that before? Talks about the sinners and all the wicked for their iniquity and everything. Those, and I mean, it's nations of people. It's going to be a day we've never seen before. But he is going to punish sinners, evildoers, wicked people, those who do iniquity. Y'all don't have to worry. Sometimes we look at them, man, they're doing so well. They as evil as all get out, but they seem to be living so well. Oh, y'all's got their number. He's got their number. And we sometimes we think, man, they just so wicked. All they do, I mean, just the course of their life and their evil heart. All they want to do is evil all day. They're just so immoral. I think we're the only nation on earth, that promotes and wants the whole world to follow after our sexual immorality. I don't. Maybe there might be some countries over in Europe. I'm not quite sure, but we want all nations to be as wicked as us. In fact, over in Africa, there's some African nations where they have gone into and says, if you don't accept transgender and homosexuality, you get no more funds from us. That's what they told these African nations. They've been funding for a while. All of a sudden, they want to cut off the funding because you don't have homosexuals and you're not promoting the transgender agenda. And there's the alphabet, L, G, B, T, G, Z, T, Q, something. It's and they're trying to promote that around the world. That's not just in the United States. You guys have to understand. It's not just in the United States. They're trying to promote that activity around the world. And they want everybody, every nation to accept that. Yeah, I mean, this past Olympics was horrible. It was just horrible. And we have to understand these things are going to come to pass, but this should strengthen my faith because I know Yah's coming back. When Yah deals with these nations, he's going to deal with them. Like he says here, for behold, Yahuwah cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth also shall disclose her blood and shall no more cover her slain. You're not going to be able to cover it up. You won't be able, because Abba Yah's eyes are in every place, beholding the evil and the good. He sees it all. Nobody can hide from him. Now, somebody might say, well, there's billions and billions of people on earth. How is it? That's just how big Yah is. To know and care for this whole earth, he knows how many people's on the earth. He knows that, and he'll tell everybody's life story, which is phenomenal when you think about it, because you think there's 3-4 billion people on Earth, something like that, plus everybody who's lived before, but that's where we are now, 3 or 4 billion, and he knows all of their life story. But he even says here, For behold, Yahuwah cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. All right? But there's a time coming where the people are going to have to shut their doors and hide themselves, but it's only going to be for a moment. We got to let the indignation pass. And when I start to see everything that's going to go down, the way prophecy explains it, I'm not going to want to be, number one, I wouldn't want to be in a large city. That's the first thing. I would not want to be in a large metropolis. New York, Chicago, Atlanta, LA. I mean, I would not want to be, because what Abba Yah is trying to get us, he's trying to prepare us to live off grid. Now, some of us won't be able to handle it. Some of us won't be able to handle just living peaceably, maybe in our tents waiting for Abba Yah, maybe in our houses. We lost our electricity. It's okay. We still gonna survive. We're gonna live. You got any food? And we might have to get down to one meal. We might have to get down to, when I break my fast, it's just if we got a little bit of fruit or some grain or something, some oatmeal, that's it. And then I'll see in the evening time. We'll have a little meal. It might come down to that as we wait, because he doesn't say how long this is going to be. He just says, hide thyself as it were for a little moment until the indignation be overpassed. So we don't know how long it is. It might not be a long time, but you're going to have to endure, and you're going to have to go through. We're going to have to go through something. We've been baruched up until this time. I should say, when I say we, I'm talking about us around here in this bi-state region on the banks of the Mississippi River, because we're kind of isolated. We don't get exposed to a lot of the things that are happening. I mean, I think it was in the city of Chicago over Labor Day, they had like 100 shootings. I mean, we're not exposed. We're not exposed to that. and we're not exposed to that. I think they said there was about, shots fired, folks shooting, and I don't know how many people died, but it does say that there was like out of those who got shot, I don't know how many died, but we're not exposed to that. Us, I'm talking about around here. We don't get, my neighborhood is pretty quiet. It's pretty quiet in my neighborhood. I thank Yah for it. I don't want to take it for granted. I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to think I'm better than anybody. I don't want that at all. But we have been blessed. I'm gonna acknowledge Abba Yahuwah. Yes, you baruch me, you bless me, and I know I might have to go through something, before you return. I might have to. Might lose a little bit. Might lose some things, and we might lose some people. We might, a lot of heartache. Things might happen, but we have to persevere and make it to the end. So back in Matthew, where we were, and there's just a lot of things that we can say because we're coming down to this end. This is where we're going to be. Now he says in verse number 32, now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. He's very basic. He goes back to nature. Let's look at a fig tree and let me explain it to you. So he's about to bring in a revelation, but he's using a fig tree and agricultural parable. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near at the doors. If I can go back up here and everything that he said from the time that he says, take heed, let no man deceive you, verse number 4. If I can read through all of that, and we are that generation that sees all these things, because he says, so likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things. Now, there might have been some generations they didn't see all these things, but we're here now. We are the generation. We can see all of these things that is made mention from Matthew 24, verse number 3, all the way down here. Because he even says, if you can see all these things, then you got to know. Know that it is near at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation, the generation that witnesses all of this, shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. And he goes on to seal it by saying, heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. And which verifies the words of the prophets. Because he says, heaven and earth can pass away, my words will not pass away. And when you read this discord here, he brings up the prophets, even Daniel the prophet. He brings up Daniel. A lot of this is quoted from prophecy. He quotes it from prophecy. So when he says heaven and earth shall pass away, he says my words shall not pass away. The prophecy and the words of Yahusha, what he said, they're not going to pass away. And then here's another discourse of verses that a lot of people misinterpret. Is it misinterpret or just misrepresent? I mean, they just totally misrepresent it. Because they take this, verse number 36, but of the day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels in heaven, but my Father only. Only Abba Yahuwah knows when this is going to happen. Only Abba Yahuwah. He says, not the angels of the Shamaim, and hold that verse here, 36. I'm going to go to Mark 13, and I think it's 32. Mark 13:32. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in the Shamaim, neither the Son, but the Father. So in Matthew, when it says the Father only, in Mark, he's telling you, not the Son, it's just the Father that knows. And so Abba Yahuwah has a day where he's going to send the angels. And so before the angels are sent, there's going to be the sound of the trumpet of the archangel. And so that day, we really don't know what that day is. We don't, but we can see things. We can see the chronological things happening. We can see prophecy being fulfilled. We can see all that. So we know, well, it's near. It's near. I don't know the day, but it is near. And there is, you heard me say this before, but there's a pastor, he's over in Africa, but in 2018, he said that the rapture was going to take place on September 22nd or 23rd of 2025. Now, he said that in 2018. So that was 7 years ago. So somewhere he figured out, from 2018 to 2025 would be the 7-year tribulation, and then, the rapture of the church was going to take place. Well, when I read this verse, it just, how you going to know if the Son doesn't know? How you going to know when it's going to happen? Because he says not even the Son knows, but the Father. So you know more. Yeah, all that everything that was written before, the tribulation. But I think what he was saying was the tribulation was supposed to start in 2018. I don't know what happened in 2018, but I guess the tribulation is supposed to start. But 2019, the end of 2019, beginning of 2020 is when COVID came. And some people was thinking that was the beginning of the tribulation and everything, because a lot of people had to change their lives, right? We had to change our life and everything going through the COVID. But that wasn't, some people, we lost some people, and it was difficult going through that time period. We endured through it, but what's coming upon us is going to be greater than that. It's going to be more severe than that. So that was just kind of like a test run. But nobody knows the day or the hour. And then he says in verse 33, take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is. So we don't know when this is going to happen. Going back to Matthew 24, he gives you the illustration of Noah. Any questions out there? But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But then he goes on to say, but as the days of Noah, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. So who got taken away in the time of Noah's flood? All the wicked. All of the wicked was taken away. And those who were righteous inherited the earth, which was Noah, his wife, his 3 sons, and their wives. And I just want y'all to know there was some time after they got off the ark to a lot of the things that happened that we read in Genesis chapter 6. There was some time that happened, what we read in Genesis chapter 9. And I would say years went by. All right. But anyway, I won't go into that. So the ones who were taken away were the wicked. Then it says here, then shall 2 be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. 2 grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken, the other left. Wherefore, watch therefore, for you know not what hour your Adonai doth come. And the ones who were taken away were the wicked. The wicked was taken away. The ones who were left behind are those who will inherit. It's the meek that will inherit the earth. Now, I do have some other things to compare when we talk about where it says 2 would be in the field, 1 taking, 2 grind the mill, 1 take another one. You have to go to Luke and compile this with Luke in the 17th chapter, because it does talk about one being taken, another left. And then what did the disciple ask him? Yeah, where are you taking them? And he doesn't give him a direct answer, but he does say where the eagles are gathered together, and for that great feast, that's where they're going. So the ones that were snatched away were the ones that were going to go to that great feast, and the great feast was for the feast of the birds, to eat their flesh. They weren't going to the Shamaim. So there's a misunderstanding when it comes to the end times. Just a misunderstanding, and it's better for us to understand what is being said and be led by the light and understanding than to just repeat something and just be a parrot and repeat and don't have an understanding of what we're saying. And all of us need to, when you have an understanding, you'll be able to explain, okay, well, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Now, we might not have it in full detail, but we kind of know the events and things that are going to take shape and take place as we get closer to the gathering of his people. My word of encouragement is, like he said in Acts, the 14th chapter. He says, through much tribulation, you're going to enter the kingdom. Before he said that, he says, you got to continue in the faith, because through much tribulation, you're going to enter the kingdom. Faith comes before the tribulation. Got to have faith, because it says in Hebrews 11:6, right? Without faith, it's impossible to please him. For he that cometh to Yahuwah must believe that he is, and he's a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. And so, why do we got to go through so much trouble? Why do we got to go through the tribulation? Some folks be crying. I don't want to go through. I don't want to go through. I don't want to deal with that. But he also gives us the example that how gold, he says it in Revelation, you're going to be tried as gold is tried. And in order to come up with some gold, you got to turn the heat up. You got to go through the fire. And he says that that's how we're going to be tried. So we have to go through, because he wants you to come forth as pure gold. He wants you to come forth as a precious jewel, precious diamond. Like Shaul said, he said, I reckon that the sufferings in this present time is not even worthy to be compared. It's not even worthy to be compared to the glory that's going to be revealed in us. So we have to go through something to get into the kingdom. And just somebody talking about you, that they called me a name. You ain't gone through nothing yet. You ain't gone through nothing yet. They talked about me. You ain't gone through nothing yet. Through much tribulation, we're going to enter into the kingdom. We just have to prepare ourselves to endure. I'm getting in shape. You know, just like this past weekend we did Sukkot prep, getting in shape. I'm getting ready. Being outdoors, being able to survive, and being able to live and sustain ourselves through food and things like that. I'm preparing myself. And one thing, as we come up on our feasts, we got the Feast of Trumpets, we got Feast of Atonement, we got Feast of Tabernacles. And the trumpet is to warn us, to let us know what's coming. And a trumpet the trumpet sounds before the archangel. He's going to make the sound of the trumpet before our Messiah returns. There's going to be the sound of the trumpet. Because it says that Yahusha said that, Shaul said it, the sound of the trumpet first. So we got trumpets coming up, so we're practicing. Blowing of the shofar, hearing that shofar. Now over in Jerusalem, they have the shofar blowing all day. It's just all day. You hear it. Well, I don't know now, because Jerusalem, well, not Jerusalem, but other parts of Israel is under attack by the Yemeni army, because they assassinated their president and his whole cabinet. So they're retaliating now, and we're coming up to trumpets. But many of them are believing the Messiah is going to come the first time. See, we believe the Messiah has already come the first time. We're waiting his second return. They don't believe he came the first time. Our Messiah that we recognize, and he is the propitiation for our sins. And he came as a lamb, the suffering servant. They don't believe that. They don't believe it. They don't believe that our Messiah has come. In fact, they said, that man that y'all believe in, and this is in their Talmud, that man that y'all believe in, he's in hell burning in human excrement. Yes. Oh, he's going to judge them. Absolutely. Yeah. 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 I don't, because I think in that place where it says the fire's not quenched, I don't know if excrement can survive there. But there, that's where they'll be. That's where they'll be. You know, he says the fire will not be quenched. It's not a pleasant place. I'm telling you. But they're going to pay for what they've said. It's abomination unto him, unto the Most High. That people's abomination. They got their heyday now, but they're abomination to the Most High. And if any of our brothers and sisters believe that they are the chosen people of the book, oh boy, your whole belief system and your eschatology is going to be way off base, way off base, because they're not the children of the Most High. And many of them, they know it. And many of them will tell you who the children of the Most High are. Many of them. They'll tell you they know. All right. Any questions or comments out there? We want to prepare ourselves for what's coming ahead. And there's no sense of saying everything is going to be rosy and all that. Oh, no. You got to prepare yourself. There's going to be a lot of heartache. Going to be some suffering. Some of us haven't suffered nothing yet. There's going to be some heartache. There's going to be some things we have to endure. There's going to be some sadness. There's going to be some sorrow. It's going to be tears. Why would he say, I'm going to wipe away your tears if you ain't never shed no tears? You ain't never had no sorrow. If you ain't never suffered, you ain't never had no sorrow, well, wiping away your tears don't mean nothing to you. The ones that have gone through a great deal, and it says, I'm going to wipe away all your tears, that's monumental because they've suffered their whole lives. They've had to endure and go through so much. All right, any questions, comments out there? If not, hallelujah. We say Torah and hallelujah to the Most High for all of you who have joined us in this Torah study. And we certainly will keep you up in prayer. Just say a special prayer as we pray for one another in this assembly. And we got those on our prayer list. But I want to put my niece's name on the prayer list. And if you guys would remember her, her name is Nisi. That's my niece. And just keep her up in prayer. And as you say your bedtime prayers and your morning prayers and your meditation. And I think we all should be praying. Those who know the truth should be praying. You should know how to call on him and talk to him if you're in truth. Because if you're in truth, I ain't going to make it without a prayer life. Because he says men ought to always pray and not faint. So that's just a constant communication with him. The prayer is constantly going up. And save me through this. You're going to have a people that's going to make it through Abba Yahweh. I want to be one of them. I want to be. That's what I say sometimes. I want to be one of them that makes it through because there's going to be some that will have to make it in the resurrection. But I want to make it through. I want to be able to go all the way through and make it. But we'll have those who will make it in the resurrection, and we'll just see you on the other side. But I want to make it through, and that's what I say sometimes. I look at where I'm at, look at what's going on. Say, I want to make it through. Yeah. Yeah, until your wrath pass. Yeah. 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 Because he knew the wrath of the Most High Yah, And yeah, that's a good saying by Job. Is, hide me in the grave until your wrath pass. And like we read in Isaiah, it says we have to go into our chambers. We got to shut the doors. It'll only be for a moment. I mean, it ain't going to be forever. It's just going to be for a time until his indignation pass. Hide me in your pavilion. Keep me covered. Keep me, keep me in that place of safety, until your anger passes. I don't want to see the anger of Yah. I ain't nothing but flesh and blood. That's all I am. He can blow the wind and blow me away. Blow me up against the wall and crack my head open with just a breath. I mean, so I don't want to see his. Do I want to see his wrath? I really don't. But it's coming. I mean, it's coming, and we just have to toughen ourselves and prepare ourselves spiritually, mentally, and stay in the faith. Like he said, continue in the faith. Continue in the faith. Don't give up. Don't give in. All right. That's it for me. Say Todah for your attendance, your patience, and we'll see you on the Shabbat. Last Shabbat, we were out at the park. We'll be here in the house on the Shabbat. And we'll have prayer at 11, and our Shabbat service starts at 11:30. So we say shalom to all those who are in the house, and we'll see you on the Shabbat.